ship increasingly took on water, filling the hold. To stay afloat, the crew pumped frantically day and night in mountainous seas. Helpless when the rudder broke, they sent out an urgent message from their sputtering radio and waited. Their message had been heard. First, a Coast Guard plane from Juneau arrived, dropping supplies. Shortly thereafter, they were picked up by a freighter, from which they watched their dream, the Taiki, lurch aimlessly away, lost over the horizon. In spite of shipworms and storms, they did pass the midpoint in their journey, proving that ancient junks were capable of lengthy voyages in the open sea. There are other discoveries which could prove that early Chinese explorers did complete such voyages 1,000 years before Columbus. Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic in his flagship, the Santa Maria, in 1492 and discovered America. Was Columbus the first? It is generally accepted that the Vikings, acknowledged to be daring seafarers, predated Columbus here. Many monuments still remain as possible proof of their settlements. Stone walls of Phoenician design found in New Hampshire indicate that they too might have been early visitors. This theory is strengthened by writings found at the site that some experts believe to be Phoenician. To argue who discovered America first is to ignore the fact it has been populated for hundreds of thousands of years. More important, we should examine what effects visitors from other lands have had on early Indian civilizations. About 1,500 years ago, a sudden cultural surge occurred in Central America, which has mystified the world of archaeology for many years. Some believe this may have been brought about by contact from China. The Buddhist religion was flourishing in China in the 6th century. In a monastery in Shenxi province, these statues stand guard over the records of Buddhist history. We learned from these stone tablets that in 570 AD, several monks set sail across the Great Sea to seek new converts to the Buddhist faith. The official account of their voyage states that the monk Hu Shen and his companions, sailing eastward, came upon the shores of a strange, faraway land. The distance logged was 20,000 leagues, or about 7,000 nautical miles. This would place them on the coast of Southern California. The account does not record their feelings as they cautiously entered a strange new land, only that they made their way inland through forests, across mountains and deserts for 350 miles. At last, they stood on the rim of a great canyon, banded with many colors. Could they have been describing the Grand Canyon? The account continues that at the bottom of the canyon, far below, there was a river winding among boulders. Making their way south, they crossed a great desert where the inhabitants ate the purple fruit of a strange tree they called the Fu Song tree. Was this a cactus? Finally, they came through dense jungles, arriving, some believe, in Central America, just prior to the great cultural flowering of the Mayan civilization. That the learned monk Hu Shen could have brought the Mayans advanced knowledge from China is discussed by Dr. James Moriarty of the University of San Diego.
I hold with many archaeologists that Central American and Mexican cultures, early ones, may very well have been influenced by some type of Asiatic contact. My reasons for this are not unique, and they're found in the works of many who since the 1800s, late 1800s, have worked on these problems. During the Han Dynasty, a certain type of bowl with certain kinds of feet was a prominent feature of that culture. You will find similar bowls in some Mexican cultures. You will find jade work, which has been much discussed by some of my colleagues, which certainly shows Chinese influence, and possibly even some pieces that are of Chinese origin.
In China, we were permitted into the Forbidden City. The former imperial palace is now a museum, housing special relics of the past. We were allowed to film the ancient jade soldier. The soldier's body, in burial, had been completely encased. It is significant that jade burial masks of the same period have been found in Mayan excavations. In China, we also filmed many serpent heads, only to find identical figures in Central America. The Mayans believed these serpents to be the representation of the man-god who brought them knowledge. Is it possible that this contact with Chinese culture accounts for the Mayans' remarkable knowledge of astronomy? Or mere coincidence that this Mayan calendar is similar to Chinese calendars of the period? In many Mayan museums, we found startling items. There were never any elephants in America, yet this Mayan relief depicts one. The Mayan face had a distinctive shape, yet occasionally faces are found that appear to be Chinese. The Mayan god of happiness is unmistakably Chinese. The image of this bearded man continues to be a mystery. It is known that Indians do not have facial hair. Who then was this Oriental man found in Mayan excavations? Recent discoveries from the ocean floor may provide answers to some of these questions. It is fortunate that these divers off Redondo Beach, California, were alert enough to recognize something unusual. Bob Maestral and Wayne Baldwin have discovered what are believed to be Chinese stone anchors.
We were out scuba diving one day, and the water was dirty, and we started looking for other things other than lobsters. And I noticed this stone that had an indentation in it. And I started scraping the little rocks and shells off, and I noticed the hole got deeper and deeper and deeper, and so I lifted the stone up, and it had a perfect hole in it.
Realizing that they may have found something unique, they decided to bring the stones to the surface for further examination.
We found 5 more, raised them, and brought them into the shop. This large stone here that you see weighs over 1,000 pounds. As we were raising it, it just broke the surface, and then itself broke in half and dropped to the bottom.
2 questions must be asked regarding any of these possible anchors. First, are they from China? And second, how old are they?
Of all the unusually shaped stones that have been found, there was only one example which was datable. That would be the stone found at the Patton Escarpment site. Samples were sent to Dr. Wang, who is a Chinese geologist. His analysis and comparative studies with known ancient quarries on the coast of China proved conclusively that the materials had come from China. The datability was in the form of a manganese concretion that had achieved a 3 millimeter thickness on this stone. The rule of thumb rate for manganese accretion is about 1,000 years per millimeter, allowing a 50% error. This stone is still obviously pre-Columbian.
It has been established to Larry Pearson's satisfaction that at least one of the stones is from China and is more than 1,000 years old. However, he still seeks more definitive answers that he believes will be found in the waters of the Pacific, proving the presence of Chinese explorers. The possible presence of Chinese explorers on our shores does not negate in any way the contribution made by Christopher Columbus. His is still the honor of founding the first continuing settlement of foreign visitors in the New World. Perhaps more important than who was first is the recognition of the valor of all those brave men